gives us the opportunity to spread our message to the parents, to the school staff, to other students that True Texas Project is in the neighborhood and we're active. So actually, Lola has your check. She's supposed to give it to you tonight, and Lola's not here tonight, so you get me, which means we will get your check to you. But I did want everybody to see you and congratulate you. So second place winner right here. Thank you very much. Lola actually sent us with a bag of stuff. Catherine, will you see if that check is in there? I would be really shocked if she left a big old check in a paper bag.
Fran has it.
Fran has it? No, Fran doesn't have it.
They delivered it to her.
Oh, you did? Well, Fran is in Illinois, so I'm going to get your check. I promise you, you're going to get your check. Okay, so other announcements. So this location is looking for more volunteers. They have openings for their prayer team leader, the food court. So the prayer team leader is the person that opens the meeting in prayer, basically. And then we also have an optional prayer service for anybody that shows up at 5:30 before every meeting. So that's the prayer team leader. They need a food coordinator. That's the person that orders the pizza, collects the money, cleans up the pizza. Okay, yeah. Okay, and then they actually need a co-director. So that would be someone that helps Lola, so that when Lola's out of town, we're not all scrambling saying who can show up at the meeting. So a co-director has the most responsibility, obviously, but we can teach you how to do everything that the co-director needs to do. So don't be scared. And then an AV coordinator and a venue liaison. In this facility, it's actually a much easier job than in other facilities because they are so great. They give us an AV guy that runs sound for us, and they have us booked out forever. So the AV coordinator and the venue liaison would just make sure that he has the videos, like the announcement video. It's very, very low responsibility level, but it's very crucial that we have a venue and we have AV. So if you can step up and do any of that, come see me, or Catherine, or Roy, or anybody. Okay. Okay, normally we pass the hat. Are you okay? We got it. Okay, we do have the hat to pass. Notice the one thing we didn't leave out. Okay, so we will just pass it around. This is a free meeting. I don't ever want anyone to feel obligated to, we're putting a basket in front of your face, and now they told me it's free, and they're trying to get my money. But it is free. But for those that can donate, we appreciate it because it does cost us money to bring in speakers and that sort of thing. So if you can give, and if you can't, just pass it on. What else? What am I missing? Oh, are there any candidates that wanted to speak? Come on. Sweet.
I'm just kind of doing it all tonight. Hi, I'm Catherine Monette. I'm running for State Board of Education, District 13. I'm running because we're indoctrinating the kids. That's what's been happening for decades. That's why our country is where it is, because we've indoctrinated them instead of educating them, dumbing them down with stupid math. I tutor math. I see what they're doing, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? They're writing dots on there. So anyway, there is a runoff. May 24th, there was 4 of us. Now there's 2 of us, but every vote is important. There was less than 300 votes between me and my opponent. So May 24th, you see my card. If you're in the blue, you can vote for me. Or maybe you know somebody that's in the blue on this map. So come see me, see if you can vote, or if you know somebody that can vote for me. Remember, District 13, State Board of Education. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Morgan, and I'm not actually running myself, but I'm representing Jeff Younger.
Let's go! Woo!
So one of the things that Jeff says, and I really appreciate, who should be running for government? Those who have been hurt by government and who know how valuable it is that we must have limited government. And Jeff, I've known him for about 3 to 4 years right now. He has been harmed by this government, and he will be there to fight for you. I was with him at the University of North Texas. Perhaps you saw when the riot took place, and he stood firm, and he said no to you people out there. I'm going to be your dad. I'm going to tell you no. You need to, something that your dads have not told you. But what he's also going to say, he's going to say no to those liberals down there in Austin that want to keep passing an agenda that is undermining the people. Right now, he's running for state representative in District 63. And his opponent right now in the primary is Ben Baumgartner. Now, I will also say something from what I've seen as far as my own research. In 2019, Mr. Baumgartner was running for city council as a Democrat. Can you believe that? Now he's a Republican. Democrats know they can't win on their own agenda. They've got to switch parties and try to deceive us. And we cannot let this take place. By the way, Mr. Baumgartner thought that many of you people here were non-essential workers. And you know what Mr. Abbott thought about non-essential workers. And by the way, Mr. Abbott is endorsing Ben Baumgartner. Why is that? The true conservatives, Bob Hall, Brian Slayton, we were even talking with General Flynn today. I think he's going to come up. These are the people that are backing Jeff Younger. If you want a true conservative agenda, and as you've seen, a guy who's not going to back down to the hordes, he's the man you need to vote for. We need people at the polling places in HD 63. So again, Jeff Younger for Texas.com, House District 63. Thank you so much.
Okay, the only other announcement I have is next month, this group will be having a potluck and a Jeopardy game night. So those are a ton of fun. I don't know if you guys were here early enough, you see the picture scroll and a picture from each county location. And Tarrant County is our biggest. It's huge. And that's, well, you know, we've been working on it for 13 years. But always the most popular things we do are the social activities because people want to get to know each other. So we started having regular potlucks and game nights, and people would show up, and then they keep coming back. So obviously Dallas County needs some work on growing their group. So come to the game night, bring something for the potluck. It'll be on the website, like if your last name is A through H, you bring such and such or whatever. We'll eat, we'll play Jeopardy, we have prizes, it'll be good. So that's next month. I think that's all the announcements I have. Olivia, come on up and introduce our speakers.
Yes, somehow it's my turn to get on the mic. Our first speaker is Shad Sullivan from RCAF USA, and I'm really excited to hear all about the ranching industry in America and how screwed up it can get when our legislators get involved.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that guy up. He kind of got me a little bit nervous. But I do appreciate you guys inviting me down to speak. I think this is my fourth one. Did Lubbock and Stephenville and went clear to McAllen, Texas. And so it's been nice to meet fellow Americans who believe in the Constitution and that love America and believe in the America First agenda. I don't know how I got here. I have no idea how I'm speaking in front of people. But somebody called me, I think it was Julie, maybe a few years ago. I don't know. Olivia, that's who it was. Sure. She says, can you speak about the war on beef? And I said, I sure can. So let me tell you that I'm going to say some things that you're not going to believe and some things that's going to make you mad. And I promise you I don't care because all of it's the truth. And it's time we as Americans wake up. So let's talk about the war on beef. My name is Shad Sullivan. I'm nothing more than an American cattle rancher. That's all I do. I make my living off of cattle only. That is our only source of income. I'm married to my wife, Thea. We have a daughter, Lindsay, 28, and a son, Beatty Lane, 6. We went 22 years. We decided to start all over. And believe me, God meant for you to raise kids in your 20s. We believe in Jesus in America. We believe in writing for the brand, and we make no apologies about it. I went to school at Crowley County High School in Ordway, Colorado, and then finished up my Bachelor of Science at West Texas A&M University out in Canyon, Texas. I was born and raised right here on Antelope Mesa in northwest Crowley County, Colorado. Our roots run deep into that country, and that's what I know. Right now, it's just me and my widowed mom. She runs a ranch up there. We also have an operation on Bitter Creek in Archer County, Texas. This operation and our Colorado operation are commingled. One can't run without the other. We've had this operation, we built this 30 years ago. This is where it all started 123 years ago at the foot of Pikes Peak when the Sullivan family and the Wright family became interwoven, and we've been there ever since. It's fitting that I speak on liberty at the foot of America's mountain. We are predominantly a stocker operation, which means I buy the calf off the man that owns the cow. I grow that calf up to a certain age or weight, and then I sell that individual to other people, feedlots, individuals, where they will go into the beef supply chain. We also have a small cow-calf operation located here in Texas. These calves I raise go clear to slaughter. I harvest them myself, and we sell them farm to table in the meat. That's some of our products. I do represent the state of Texas with RCAF USA. RCAF USA is the largest producer-led, driven, and funded cattlemen's organization in the United States. We represent 5,000 cattle, beef, and sheep producers in 42 states. I'm the private property rights chair at RCAF USA, and my experience started 30 years ago when government overreach and bureaucratic crooks took 48,000 acres from my family through a corrupt deal. So let's talk about the war on beef. What is it? Well, I'm going to teach you today how the beef industry and your freedom are totally combined, interwoven, and have everything to do with each other. The war on beef is the hijacking of liberty and freedom. So, we've got to ask ourselves, the who, why, how. First, who? Who is raging the war on beef? Well, we got to start at the very top, and that is the global cabal, or you will know them as the global elite. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, clear down to the Bush family. I know. We're in Texas. I drove over the George W. Bush freeway, which, by the way, those freeways are very confusing. And I want you to know that George H.W. Bush signed us into Agenda 21 in the early 1990s. The global elite control everything. They're at the top of the food chain. They believe in production control, financial, political, and environmental production control. They believe in a single body of planet governments. They are globalists. They believe in global population control. They are eugenicists. And they believe your standard of living must be sacrificed at the altar of the New World Order. You'll hear that. You've heard it a lot in the last, 50 years, 40 years. I heard it growing up. My dad talked about the New World Order that was coming. If you don't believe me, look at what Nathan Rothschild said. He says, I care not what puppet is placed on the throne of England to rule the empire. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the money supply. But he's not to be outdone. Our own David Rockefeller said, some even believe we are part of a secret cabal, working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. So, at the top, we have the global elite, the global cabal. They have to use an organization to implement this ideological, evil agenda. So, steps in the United Nations. The United Nations is on record as saying, tackling meat is the world's most urgent problem. So there's a little seed of what you're going to see here. So what is the United Nations? Well, it's the intergovernmental organization aiming to maintain international peace and security. Sounds great, doesn't it? The reality is this organization is tasked with incrementally and regionally implementing a new world order again. They subvert national sovereignty and integrate a global governance of economic, political, and environmental power. Now, economic, political, and environmental. Keep those words in your mind. We're going to talk about that again in a little bit. So, we have the global cabal. Then we have them using the United Nations. The United Nations has to have foot soldiers to implement this agenda across the globe. Some of those soldiers are global governmental organizations such as the European Union, the African Union, Have you heard about non-governmental organizations, or what we call NGOs? These are nonprofits and charities. They utilize them. Environmental non-governmental organizations, some of the most dangerous organizations on earth today, such as the World Wildlife Fund, the Nature Conservancy. They use corporations. Notice the corporations up there: Cargill, Tyson, McDonald's, Costco, Nestle. All of those organizations control your food supply. They're centralized. Archer Daniels Midland. And they use radical ideologues, green activists. Man, has that not taken off like wildfire in the last few years? So we have at the top the global cabal, and they use the United Nations. The United Nations uses their foot soldiers. We have to ask ourselves, how does the war on beef rage? And what is it? They're using climate change. Climate change used to be global warming. But nobody fell for global warming, right? Because the seas didn't rise. So they had to change it. It's now called climate change. Climate change is nothing more than an anti-animal ideology. That's all it is. They say that cattle are leading to the anthropogenic climate change, which means it's human-caused. That you and I, using animals, are causing this climate change. They say cattle have the highest carbon footprint. That's a lie. True science knows and proves that proper grazing practices actually reduce agriculture's carbon footprint. We actually are carbon positive in the beef industry. Cattle are responsible for the majority of methane emissions. Beef production in America only accounts for 4% of the 9% total that agriculture contributes to methane emissions. Now, they like to speak with forked tongues, right? They get themselves in trouble. We've got people like billionaire Richard Branson. Wasn't he the one that went to the moon or something like that?
Virgin Galactic, he got to orbit.
Did what?
Virgin Galactic went to space on his
There
space
you
plane.
go. Well, Richard Branson is an investor in Memphis Meats. Do you know what Memphis Meats is? It's the second fake meat company to come out. He's an animal activist, and he owns the #1 highest polluting airline in the world. So as he's telling you that you shouldn't have beef, he's polluting by going to the moon or whatever. They say that cattle are destroying rangelands and depleting natural resources, when the science says proper grazing mitigates fire destruction and increases plant and soil health. Have you noticed what's going on out west for the last 15 years? What? We're on fire. Everywhere we look. From Colorado west, the 110th prime meridian. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's so much government-owned, should we call it government-owned, public-owned land. They're kicking these producers and these loggers off the land. They can't, they're creating this fire hazard, right? It's happening. They say cattle place a burden on human food supply and actually cause world hunger. My gosh. Cattle upcycle non-edible forage into nutrient-rich protein, which leads to food security. And what is food security? It's national security. A healthy nation is secure. In his book, The Road to Ruin, James Rickards says climate change is a convenient horse for the elites to ride in on the implementation of a new world order. No secret. So, if you think this is new, you're wrong. 1989, the United Nations says entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. Here we are. We're still here. The war on beef continues to rage through sustainable development. Everybody hears sustainability? I don't know why, but I like the cooking channel, and I'm always seeing this advertisement for locally grown vanilla beans that were sustainably raised. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So sustainable development is really big, and it is, the word sustainability has been stolen from our vocabulary. But they say it is socially responsible, environmentally sound, and economically viable products that prioritize people, planet, and animals. The truth is, sustainability is nothing more than top-down control of production and consumption. Don't think it's just for producers. So this is kind of how I got into wondering what was happening to our freedom, our ability to produce, how we saw fit. Now we're just a mom and pop ranch. I mean, it's me and my widowed mom. So we're not that big. But I got a call from a Brazilian one time asking about the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. Well, I'd heard of it, so I thought, well, maybe I better start studying it. Well, here it comes. I find out what it is. It's a you get on board or get out of the market type situation. That was in 2010. I've studied it a lot since then. But they created these sustainable initiatives, like the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Soy in Brazil, the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef all over the world. They are top-down methods of production control driven by the United Nations. They regulate and govern producers and consumers and food systems worldwide. Sustainable roundtables are a group of people from governmental or non-governmental organizations coming together to set production standards. Now, I want to see where I'm at. Okay. Am I going the wrong way? I am going the wrong way. Sorry. Okay. Sustainability is rooted in communism. It's an ideology. If you'll notice in the Soviet Constitution, it says the socialist system ensures enlargement of rights and freedoms of citizens and continuous improvement. Now, the main objective of sustainability is continuous improvement. Okay? You'll hear that word all the time. Continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. What does that mean? Well, that basically means that they're going to set the bar of production here. And once you get there to their liking, they're going to raise it. You're never good enough. That's what continuous improvement means. But if you look and compare the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef's mission compared to the Communist Constitution, it's almost identical. Sustainability is control. So, we have to have an example. The World Wildlife Fund has been delegated the responsibility of implementing sustainability across the world, especially into the beef industry, okay, by the United Nations. The World Wildlife Fund is the most radical environmental organization on earth, and they are highly funded by the global elites. They have money that you can't even imagine. They are buying ranches in the northern plains. They're making deals. But what they've done is they've infiltrated into what they call public-private partnerships. You've all heard of them. It's a private organization teaming up with a public entity. Right here in the background, you can see where the World Wildlife Fund teamed up with the Beef Checkoff. Now, the Beef Checkoff is a $1 tax that we pay every time we sell an individual animal. So if I sell 2,000 head of cattle today, I pay that $2,000. If I sell them another 2,000 tomorrow, I pay another $2,000, $1. We pay that tax for promotion, research, and education. It's something that I supported back in the day. Okay? What happened was the World Wildlife Fund infiltrated into our trade organizations across the United States, namely the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And they partnered up with the Cattlemen's Beef Board, which is the checkoff. Now, we're paying the Cattlemen's Beef Board $1 per head, and the Cattlemen's Beef Board is then sending that money to the World Wildlife Fund because they have created great partnerships that are going to extend our sustainability. But let's look at what the World Wildlife Fund actually stands for. Their mission is to conserve nature and reduce the most pressing threats to diversity of life on Earth. Okay? Sounds good. They have 15 high priority commodities. Beef is number 2. They believe it's the most dangerous. Palm oil. If you notice, we're in an oil shortage. It's palm oil. That's number 1. The World Wildlife Fund, Jason Clay, a communist. He's their executive director of Marketing Institutes. These are their quotes. Beef production is a major threat to our natural ecosystems globally. They say agriculture is the biggest threat. That's what Jason Clay said. He also said we've come to a time where a farmer or rancher can't simply point to their own performance and show how good they are and expect to somehow avoid the ire of people who look at the whole system. He says, you're too young to figure this out. Producer, rancher, farmer, consumer, we have to figure it out. He says we have to take the choice away from you, the consumer, and they have to use collusion to do it. You see, he believes that consumers shouldn't have a choice of whether they want sustainably raised products. It's a get on board or get out market. The war on beef continues to rage through corporate and academic collusion. This is ideological infiltration. We've seen it back in the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, trade organizations, governments, state, local, school boards, commissions, churches. Who remembers CRT? I guess we still have CRT going, right? That's not really a thing out where I live, right? They've infiltrated local governments. I'm from Colorado, got to Texas a long time ago. Be with me. But Colorado started becoming infiltrated back in the early 90s. And we had Californians moving in like crazy like they are here. And it changed our culture. And today, we're a democratic state because of 3 counties. 3 counties. We are rurally driven, and we are losing because of this infiltration from other states. They use colleges and universities. Who has a kid that just came home from college and you're hitting your head against the wall saying, what are you talking about? What are you thinking? Our daughter drives me insane. She went to Texas Tech and got a big degree, and she comes home a liberal. How does that happen? Well, I guess we didn't put a foundation on her, right? These influencers are strong, but we've straightened her up. It's been 5 years since she's straightened up. An example of that is a recent study at Oxford Martin in England. They found that a health tax on red and processed meat could prevent 220,000 deaths. Why is Oxford doing a study on American beef production? Why? Because they're all the same people. This is all the same people. The people killing our babies, 70 million babies. This is the same ideology. The problem with this study that I found was that it was led by Dr. Marco Springman, who's a vegan activist. So he's open-minded already about beef, right? But it was published by the Public Library of Science, a nonprofit journal founded by Patrick Brown, the CEO of Impossible Foods, the very first fake meat company. Boo is right. They use corporations. Do you remember what happened during COVID? That's how I got here. Our food supply chains were interrupted. We had empty shelves, especially beef. In Wichita Falls, Texas, they put beef out at 6 o'clock in the morning. By 6:30, it was gone. They wouldn't have another load for a day. Centralization of our food supply systems have created uninhibited power structures. It's dangerous. very dangerous. Some examples of that is JBS, National Waterfront, Tyson, and Cargill. They control 85% of the beef supply chain. Now, JBS and National Waterfront are Brazilian owned. I would have you to Google JBS and just Google corruption in JBS. Their owners, two brothers, Jocelyn Batista, spent 6 months in prison. They bribed 2,000 legislators in Brazil to let their tainted meat go through. You think they're not going to do that here? This is your food supply. Archer Daniels Midland, the biggest food processing company in the world. Look what their CEO says. He says those who control the global food system have the ultimate control and economic power. Right? And then trade organizations. They've all signed on to sustainable initiatives. Not understanding that what sustainability is top-down control. The war on beef continues to rage through loss of property. What is America about? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? They are coming after our ranches and our farms, and they're coming fast. And I'm with them. That deal back in 1999 when my family lost 40,000 acres, that was just the very tip of the iceberg. That set us back a lot of years. But they use conservation as the head. We all want to be conservative. We all want to set these lands aside. They come in conservation easements, federal programs. Anybody hear of the 30 by 30 Executive Order 14008? It's now called America the Beautiful. And they're going to set 30% of America's land and waters aside for preservation and conservation by 2030. This is a big deal. They've already implemented it in Colorado. They're implementing it across the West. They use public-private partnerships. We talked about that earlier, but that's really what happened to my family. What do we got, 3 minutes? I'm going over the 3 minutes because you guys need to hear this. And I drove 3 hours. He did too. He did too. Okay. Public-private partnerships. State Land Board of Colorado and the Nature Conservancy teamed up and took our land from us. They use animal rights and environmental extremism. This is rooted in it's not animal rights. It's animal extremism. Last year, Colorado's PAWS Act, which if it would have made it onto the ballot, we're a one-initiative state. They put two initiatives on the ballot on this PAWS Act, so it got thrown out. But it would have made people like me felons. If I pulled a calf out of a cow, if I sewed a cut up on a horse, it made us felons. You don't believe me? This is where it starts right here. Senior political advisor J.P. Goodwin to the Humane Society of the United States. I assure you the Humane Society is your enemy. He said, my goal is the abolition of all animal agriculture. People, animal agriculture puts food on your table every day, and it's not just meat. Okay? If I can get anything into your mind tonight, it is the importance of property rights. Property may be you, it may be your ranch, your home, your car to get to work, your gun to protect your home. Property is the foundation of freedom and liberty, and once they control our property, they control our food supply, you are done. And we're almost there. Private property promotes individual freedom in 3 ways. It upholds the rights of the individual, it provides distribution of power, and it ensures resource access. You know that. As an American, you know that. This is a photo. The Center for Biological Diversity and the Wildlands Project, as well as the United Nations and the United States, USDA, created this map, not USDA, I'm sorry, created this map in 1993. Okay? This map is a corridor system that is created to protect biological diversity or conservation. If you'll notice, the 110th prime meridian is right here. Boom. Goes about Childress, Texas. Goes up through there. If you'll notice, everything west is mostly red. You know what the red is? Zero human use. The yellow is buffer zones. Little to zero human use. The green is where we're going to produce your food. Notice it's from Texas northeast into Central America, the central part of the northern plains. What I find interesting is, and this was produced in 93, it came out in 96, is this buffer zone along the border. It is the zone of cooperation. I don't know. When I went to McAllen, and some of you may know Ammon Blair. He's become a good friend. Julie, do you know Ammon Blair? I love that guy. Love him. He is was a Border Patrol agent. I wonder, is that what this zone of cooperation is now? Maybe. All right. So we have the who, the how. Let's get to the why. The why is simple. The war on beef rages because of communism. You can call it whatever you want. Communism, fascism, Marxism, socialism, put an ism on it. It's all about political and economic doctrine that aims to replace private property. It's controlling the means of production through collectivism. So, they had to create a crisis, which was climate change. And in order for climate change to work, they had to create a solution, which is sustainability. Put whatever ism you want. It's the total loss of personal and productive liberty. That's what this is. I'm good friends with the world's expert on sustainability. She did this 20 years ago. She wrote this out. And if you can see how complex these issues are in the food system and the control, you can see at the very top. This is 20 years ago she wrote this. Global elite at the top, sustainability in the middle. Create the crisis, solve the crisis. I just happened to long this in my notes. It's an interwoven and diabolical web, and it's supposed to be complex, so you don't understand it. So how do we win the war on beef? Well, we know it's a war on the American values of life, liberty, and property. I'll go to my grave saying it should be property, liberty, life. Because without private property, we have no liberty. Without liberty, we have no life. Number one, we must defend the Constitution of the United States of America. That's the most important thing. We have to become activists for freedom and liberty. You guys are all doing that here. We have to end corruption. We must decentralize our food supply. You must start buying local. I don't know how to get that over. We have antitrust laws that would eliminate this oligarchy in the food supply chain. But our legislators, both Republican and Democrat, mostly Republican, have failed you. They've allowed these acquisitions and mergers of these huge food companies. And now they control the supply chains. Okay? We must end pay to play. People think I'm crazy. And I am a little bit crazy, I'll say that. I mean, I drove to Dallas, for goodness sakes. It's a crazy man to do that. I think we have to end all lobbying. These lobbyists are killing America. Okay, something that you as a consumer can do today is demand the re-implementation of mandatory country of origin labeling.
Yeah.
Your representative, Lance Gooden, he just introduced a companion bill to Senate Bill 2716, which is the American Beef Labeling Act. Did you know? Well, let me see you raise a hand. If you have a product of USA sticker on your beef, is that a product of the USA? Might not be. You can import beef and you can put it in a different box. You can cut it in half. You can rewrap it, and it now becomes a product of the USA. That's why the Beef Labeling Act is so important. Please call your legislators. Know where your food's coming from. 2 products in the United States that you consumers buy don't have mandatory country of origin labeling on it. Beef and pork. Why is that? Because the importers want to import all that cheap, less graded beef and put it on yours. It's misleading. Talk about disinformation. I'm hurrying, Julie, damn it. Support legislation by American, by American, by American. Okay. 1735. France tried to invade Europe, or England. England were beef eaters. They were strong. They knew they would win. Theodosius Forrest, War Ballad. He says, their people slaves of power and pride, fat beef and freedom are denied. What realm, what state can happy be when wanting beef and liberty? I assure you, wherever there is beef, there is freedom. It stands true today. I found this. My mom always said, Shad, babies cry for freedom. They cry for freedom. We're killing our babies, but they cry for freedom. I found this in the backseat of my car 2 days ago. My 6-year-old chewed out on the way home. All right, I'm done. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you brought up the 30 by 30 land grab. We actually have a speaker coming in August that's going to tell us all about that, Margaret Byfield. Yeah, so y'all be sure to come back and bring some friends for that. Our next speaker is Brooks McKenzie. He's going to be telling us all about the family court failures in the state of Texas and some shocking stories of CPS and all kinds of children and family problems that we have. Yeah, I heard you blabbing earlier and it sounded really interesting. So give it up for Brooks McKenzie.
So when I first got here, after Julie asked me to take out the trash and clean up before y'all got here, I asked her if she had tinfoil. Did you bring tinfoil? At that point, she didn't know I was one of the speakers. She looked at me like I was one of the black jobs that show up to these things. So anybody feel like they need their tinfoil now?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know most of that stuff. So my name is Brooks McKenzie. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a master's in clinical psychology, which is psychopathology, so depression, borderline, schizophrenia. I'm not a counselor. I don't want you to tell me how you're feeling. I mean, I care as a Christian, but I'm not going to validate, your kid has too many soccer games and you need to cut. That's not what I do. Because my PhD is experimental and developmental psychology. So experimental means I'm a researcher. So that's why I don't want to hear about how you're feeling. So I used to serve as the Assistant Director of Research at the TCU Institute of Child Development. And if you've ever worked with at-risk children or nonprofits that serve them, I probably train those people. We developed something out there called TDRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention, is the most widely used intervention for at-risk children and families, post-doc foster care, abuse, neglect, deprivation, things like that. So that's my background. And the other part of my PhD is developmental psychology. So developmental psychology is from the time the sperm inseminates the egg to the day you die. So it's just that little time span. That's what I know about. But my specialization, within my specialization, is children. And specifically a thing called attachment. And some people may not know what it is. Most people don't. So I'm about to jam a year's worth of developmental psychology undergrad classes down your throat in about 5 minutes, and then we're going to get into the nutty stuff, okay? So, preaching to the choir, nuclear family. And so, full disclosure, I was a researcher long before I was a Christian. I am a late life Christian, and you will probably figure that out by the time I'm done speaking here tonight. I'm a little rough around the edges. I was an agnostic, blah, blah, blah. My minor was philosophy, existentialism, so I could argue Kierkegaard and watch the Watchmaker. I could go back and forth. I could pick a side and just argue to death. But I didn't want a God in my life because I didn't want an absolute moral right and wrong to dictate what I was doing. I wanted to set my own rules, and we see that a lot today in society. So I was a researcher long before I was a Christian. And one of the things that happened, it's a long story and I have no time for that, but once I had my first, I've had like 3 of them, burning bush moment, the man who I verbally abused for weeks on end, Pastor Chris Prager, gave me a book, McDowell's More Than a Carpenter, C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. He said, I can't argue with this, just go read these. He said, because you're really good at arguing. I said, thank you. So I read those and I came back and, okay, you win. I didn't have an argument because it was so logical. C.S. Lewis, I love C.S. Lewis. So he gave me the Bible, gave me the message. Thank God it wasn't King James, no offense to King James people. And as I read this thing, it was the playbook, right? So I'm now on this team, so I need to know the rules. So I read the Bible in like 3 months because that's the kind of freak I am. And so I read this thing, and what was amazing is that all throughout this book, this stuff that was written thousands and thousands of years ago has been validated by our research over and over and over again, whether it comes to raising children, families, money. An aside, Alcoholics Anonymous is a 12-step program for drunks. It's based on the Bible. It's the most successful recovery program in the world. It's absolutely free. But their 12 steps are how to repent. Literally. I figure out I need God, I identify what I did, I go to the person I messed over, and I say, how can I fix this? And then I continue to build my relationship. So when I read the Bible, I was like, wow, everything that I know as a researcher for helping children, families, and all that stuff, because that's my area, has actually been laid out by God thousands of years ago. So, but part of that is the nuclear family. Our nuclear family's been under attack for decades. Reagan, greatest mistake of your political career. Anybody know what he said?
Signing no-fault divorce.
Enacting no default divorce as governor of California. So, our nuclear families, and if you are a believer, fantastic. You already know what it says about that in that book. And if you're not, I can sit down with you and show you the research from academia, which means universities, and universities are notoriously liberal, which I find ironic that the liberals actually went out and proved God. But that's a whole separate issue. But we know the importance of the nuclear family. We know what happens to kids. We know men and women are not the same. My brain is not the same as yours. We have the same parts, but my anger and aggression center operates different, and your empathy center. And the world's tried to sell us on this stuff that we can all do everything, rah, 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 great. Okay, I don't want to get too far off from that, but I can't have a baby. I can't breastfeed, So there's things that we can't do, and God designed us separately and differently for a reason. We have delineated roles, and we know that through research, that a woman, a mother, gives unto a child, her child, something that the father does not. The father does the exact same thing in a different way. And we know. So when you cry fatherlessness and all this stuff in our society, right? Everybody's going to prison. Everybody's dying. All these problems, we're a bunch of drug addicts. Oh my gosh, what can we do? Oh, we put out posts on our school webpage, and we had all these fathers show up for all these little boys who didn't have fathers. Exactly, there's a reason for that. There's a reason fathers are important. We'll get into that. So here's your attachment blast. So attachment, has anybody seen the Discovery Channel? The guy who flies this glider, and all those ducks or geese or whatever follow him around. They fly with them, they walk around, and they think he's mama. That's called imprinting in birds. You can imprint a bird. I can imprint a bird to this clicker. If it is the first thing that the bird sees when it's born, it will. If I put it on a string, it will follow it around for the rest of its life. It's called imprinting. In humans, it's called attachment. It's a lot more complicated than that. But attachment is an innate thing that starts at about 6 months of age and affects you for the rest of your lifetime. Every single relationship you ever have, whether with your parent, your sibling, significant other, will be influenced by that attachment relationship you had with your parents. And so we're going to go through a couple of things really quick. So this is the scientific basis of what I'm about to talk about. So attachment, think birds. It's innate, it means we're born with it. We know it's there. It's not a concept like intelligence. We actually know the neurological parts of the brain. We know the different parts of the brain that activate this system and what happens when you don't activate it properly. So anything that you practice over and over and over, you get really good at, whether it's basketball, riding a bike, or anxiety, or stress, or depression. Your brain reinforces those neural pathways. It strengthens, it makes them stronger. If I take kittens, cute kittens, and when they're born, I sew their eyes shut. I suture their eyes shut. And I leave their eyes sewn shut for 6 weeks. And then I take those sutures off. I haven't taken the eyeball out. I haven't removed the optic nerve. I haven't done anything to the occipital lobe of the brain. The cat is functionally blind, cannot see. Because during that critical developmental phase, the brain is really big on efficiency. During that critical developmental phase, the brain went in and said, I don't need all these connections because my eye's not getting an input, nothing's going back. So it literally shears them. And when you take the sutures off, that cat will never see again. And our attachment system is very much like that. In childhood, up into adulthood, it's under formation, but the most crucial years are early childhood. But if I get a negative input or no input, my brain is shaped like that forever. So abused, neglected children actually have brain damage because it did not form the way it should have. So we know it's neurobiological, it has lifelong effects. And so there's either healthy or unhealthy. You will always have an attachment. You can have a very unhealthy attachment. Many children of abusers will run away from foster homes and go back to the abuser because that's all they know. So they have an attachment even though it's extremely unhealthy. And this is just a little blurb on, this is out of neurobiology. So my area is psychology, but in all different areas, geneticists, everybody has measured this thing and found it to be true. It is an actual physical thing in our brain that causes us to function in a social way. Difficult to think of any behavioral process that is more intrinsically important to us than attachment. Feeding, sleeping, and locomotion, walking around, are all necessary for survival, but humans are a social animal, and it is our social attachments that we live for. Okay, overestimation. These are animal people. These aren't psych people or social people. These are like, you know, you stuffed animals. They slice the brain. They look at it. You know, they're not the touchy-feely people. I'm not really that touchy-feely. But so they've recognized it. We know that without human touch and interaction and healthy attachment, you can actually die as an infant. In Romania, in the Ceausescu regime, they forced people to have babies because he didn't think the population was big enough. And so the orphanages were overflowing. And they did not know what to do. So they basically kind of hamster caged them. They put the babies in a crib, put a little milk bottle there, and some of them got picked up, some didn't. The death rate in the orphanages was over 1/3 from not being picked up and held. They had food, they were warm, they had blankets, but the mere fact that these babies did not get picked up, they just died. That's how important the attachment system is to us. And so when you meet an adult who has a lot of anxiety or a lot of issues, that's their attachment system. Mental health is directly related to it. Alcoholism, learning defects, all kinds of stuff. Autoimmune diseases later in life because you're constantly under stress because you didn't get what you should have had to be able to deal with this world later in life. And these negative effects, again, last a lifetime. They don't go over, you don't grow out of them, you don't forget, you don't just go, okay, whatever. They last forever. And why am I talking about all this neurobiology and this deep psych stuff? Well, I'm about to get you a tinfoil hat going. So, and this is just a slide, I'm not going to go through it all. But we've got healthy and unhealthy. So the healthy, it's a buffer against society. The tens of thousands of times that a healthy mother picks up her infant and fixes their problem and pats them and touches them and all that, it brings the brain up and they fix it, brain up and they fix it, brain up and they fix it. And eventually as the child gets older, its brain learns how to do it because it's done it via mom or dad or whoever. When you don't get that, you go up and you never come down. And remember what happens when we practice something, our brain gets really good at it. It gets really good at staying here. So we know that the rates of mental health issues, drug and alcohol addiction, and everything else is extremely high in people with negative attachments and attachment disorders. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is disrupted attachment over the end. So when you take a parent out, whether it's CPS, our CPS and VFPS are two of the most disgusting organizations in our state. They're absolutely incompetent and corrupt. I've trained them, I've met with their administrators for years. They just don't care. And they are not trained to do what they're supposed to do. You can have a basket weaving degree, get a badge, they literally have badges, and walk into someone's house and take their kid out. You know, training, not having a kid of your own, no psychology degree, no idea what child development is. And it happens. We'll get into that too. But when we break that attachment, imagine coming home and your spouse is gone. And you never get to see him again. Would that be, well, for some of you, it might. Don't raise your hand. Do not raise your hand. That'd be good. So the thing is if you're in a healthy relationship, or even an unhealthy one at the time, you're going to be devastated. But that happens to our kids all the time, and they will get over it. They don't ever get over it. They never get over it. And that's what's called disruptive. Disruptive, breaking, damaging. That's what disruptive attachment is. And so we see that. We go watch the little happy Facebook post about all the dads showing up for the fatherless kids. There's all these campaigns against fatherlessness, right? Fatherless, da-da-da. But who are the greatest promoters of fatherlessness? Are there scumbag dads who just bolt and don't want to have it? Yes. There's also scumbag moms who do that too. There are dopehead dads who do it. Yes. But the vast majority of these people don't come from those situations. Sometimes CPS and foster care, but probably the greatest ones in our society are divorce courts. We've normalized divorce. So fatherlessness, we know it sucks, but how bad does it suck? So it's estimated there's 20 million, so N stands for number. So my N is about 20 million kids in the United States who wake up without a father in their home. 90% of all runaways are from fatherless homes. They have 9 times the high school dropout rate, or dropout rate, period, sometimes before high school. 71% of teenage addicts and alcoholics, they're 10 times more likely to use drugs than alcohol. 80% of psych hospitalizations for teens are from fatherless homes. See a pattern here? Twice as likely to commit suicide. 70% of all juvenile inmates, fatherless homes. 11 times if you have violent behaviors, attacking, stabbing, shooting, all those wonderful things. 70% of teen pregnancies, girls with fatherless homes. 9 times likely to be an abuse of sexual abuse, to be a victim of sexual abuse. That's male and female. 60% of all rapists come from fatherless homes. And you're 20 times more likely to be incarcerated. And this is just a stat. In our country, 4 out of 10, so about 40% of our kids go to sleep in a fatherless home. So fatherless is great, right? Wonderful. No. So who would think it is? And none of this is new. We've known this stuff for 40 years. We've known this for decades. They've been running these fatherless campaigns since the early 80s at least, right? So who would think fatherlessness is great? Who would promote it? Anybody? Bueller? I don't know. Hello? Anybody? What scumbag, sorry, told you I was rough, would think it's okay to do this? Well, let's find out. This is a quote. The foundation has worked tirelessly to defeat proposals to end no-fault divorce, extend the waiting period for divorce, and impose a presumption in favor of the unworkable 50-50 custody, blah, blah, blah. And we've done much more. Anybody got a clue who this might be?
Texas Family Law Foundation.
Oh my gosh. Texas Family Law Foundation. So,
The lobbying group for divorce attorneys.
can I pick on you a little bit? Okay, so we're married. And my secretary's hot. So I want out. All I gotta do is go file the paperwork, right? I mean, that's it. No fault. I don't have to pre-file. I can just go. Here you go. I'm done. So why would you want to end that? Oh, I don't know. Why would you want to put a waiting period? Maybe my secretary ends up leaving with the cuter guy that has more money across the hall. You know, you see what I'm saying? So everything that we tried over the past decades, not to make divorce impossible, but to make it more difficult, give you a waiting period. How about you go to counseling for 6 months? I testify as expert witness in custody cases. I've seen judges order anger management, drug testing, psych evals, co-parenting classes, on and on and on. I've never once seen a judge say, you two are going to counseling for the next 4 months and then come back and talk to me. Not once, but they have the power to do it. And if you ask them to do it, they will say no. That's not what this court is for. And if you say, I don't believe in divorce because I'm a Christian and that's not the way God designed the family and I really want to work this out with my spouse, they will label you as litigious if you file something. Or they'll label you as non-compliant. You are actually their enemy if you don't believe in it. And you will get labeled as such and you will pay a price because the industry is set up to do the divorce, not to work it out. So yeah, so this is Kathy Kinsner, the outgoing, I believe, president of the Texas Family Law Foundation. So who is the Texas Family Law Foundation? They're a group of wonderful, amazing people who care about your family law. No, they don't. The Texas Bar, everybody know who the Texas Bar is? They're supposed to oversee attorneys, discipline them. You mess up, don't do it again, or we'll take your law license. Right? They have this whole page full of ethics and standards that we're supposed to minimize conflict, reduce bills, don't file needless stuff and all this, right? This is their lobbying arm. This is the people they give the money to on the side and say, go kill that bill. And this lobbying arm brags openly about killing the bills and how much money they've made for the family law attorneys. And how much money have they made for the family law attorneys? It's a $3.8 billion a year business in Texas alone. $3.8 billion. It is estimated that family law attorneys make more money as a single group than all other attorneys put together. They have monetized the destruction of the nuclear family. And men, if you go through it, you have less than a 10% chance of being the primary caregiver of your child. They intentionally take men out of the family. So, back to my Christian soapbox. If I'm the enemy, how do I destroy society? What do I need to break first? The nuclear family. And who do I need to take out to break the nuclear family? No offense, women, but I need to take the leader out. I need to take him out, cripple him, and destroy him. And then now I can work. And now those children grow up seeing something that is ungodly, but that's their normal. So that next generation, it's not a big deal. I was raised in it. And then da-da-da-da-da. And then pretty soon we're putting lipstick on kindergartners and saying that, you know, they can choose, and society's like, okay, how did we get here? That's how we got here. Because we didn't have strong families. It's men standing up saying, I will put my hands on you if you try to do that to my kid. Because a lot of these men aren't even allowed to go to their kids' school without permission via the family courts. Okay, so, but it can't be that corrupt. Absolutely can't be that corrupt. The bar would certainly come in and take someone's law license who promoted corruption, who violated their ethics, who actually, quite honestly, violated the law. Do you know it's illegal to go into court and lie? Anybody know that? It's called perjury. Did you know who can go into court and lie? Attorneys. Literally, they're called qualified immunity, gives them permission to lie in court because it is called vigorous representation of your client. Is it illegal to present evidence I know to be false? Absolutely. But I've never seen an attorney get in trouble for it. So this just happens to be not just any attorney, but Williamson County, down there by Austin. This is their district attorney. She is giving a lecture to family law attorneys. And bear with me here. She's going to tell them and teach them how to file fake restraining orders on the other parents in order to get them removed and out of the child's life and force them into agreeing. All of which is illegal. She's still got her law license. Oops, nope, we're back. Let's see. I gotta go this way. Maybe.
I got it.
You're up.
Who here has handled a divorce? Oh, basically everyone. Who here has handled divorce with family violence and refer the protective order to my office. All right. I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't do that. Not only because it's more work for me, but as part of a protective order, it seems like most of y'all have enough basis to know that a protective order carries criminal consequences. Accordingly, that makes it a pretty heavy tool in negotiating divorce. If it goes through my office, it's a lot harder to use it in negotiating a settlement to your divorce. So I would encourage you very strongly, if you have one of those cases, to do the protective order as part of your case. It gives you more leverage in negotiating settlement.
All right. So I'm going to get on a couple of things that she said there. Do not bring it to my office. She's the person who prosecutes crimes in Williamson County. Why would you not want someone to bring a crime to your office if that's your job? Oh, wait. There doesn't have to be a crime to file for a restraining order. You actually have to present no evidence whatsoever. Again, I'm filing on you. You don't know it. You come home with a bag of groceries, and I serve you with papers, and I can serve you at the same time with a restraining order that requires you to leave the house immediately. And I need no evidence, no video, no bruise, no police report, no hospital report. I don't even need a corroborating friend to say she did it. I just go in there and say she was scared of her. Because look, I mean, see, she did it. Okay, great. Boom. And you will be out. Problem is, and no offense again, women, 80% of divorces are filed by women. So 80% of the time, it is the man who's going to be getting kicked out. And once you have a restraining order from a judge, it is almost impossible to get it lifted until you go to trial. And when you go to trial, whether it's in front of a judge or a jury, they say, well, it's already been found that this man's a danger. He hasn't been allowed to see his kid for 9 months. Why would you reverse it in a jury? They don't know this. Well, he must have done something. Sorry, buddy, you can see him when they're 18. And what you've just done is destroyed that attachment system I talked about. You just ensured that that child's risk for mental health issues is 3 times the national average, 6 times, 10 times for drug and alcohol abuse. I know we have young ears in here. So we go to the cemeteries, and they are full of young people who died because they come from fatherless homes. Your life expectancy is less when you come from a fatherless home. If you go to a gentleman's club, ask those girls working there, how many of you had a father in your home? Probably none. Go to a homeless shelter, ask them how many of them grew up with a strong male in the home? None. None, none, none. Prison, we already know those stats, 70%. No father in the home. Yet we have a system that has monetized taking the father out of the home, breaking the family, turning it into money. And then quite honestly, I was having a discussion with our amazing DJ over here, DJ Flashy Flash, and if you go into court and you say, okay, you filed for me, we're going to reverse it. And I say, Judge, I'm a Christian. I do not believe in divorce. I would like you to order counseling. I would like to work on our marriage, see if we can get back together. I'm more than happy to move out. I want to save my family because that's what God says to do. They will label you a zealot, a freak, some Waco kind of person, obsessed with salvation. It's actually a compliment, but they use that, and they will say that you're non-compliant, that you're not cooperating with the court because you don't believe in it. Our entire system has been monetized to do this. But in her speech here, she doesn't want them to bring it because, again, in family court, you do not need evidence. They have a thing, and you'll see it, they've been slandering Jeff Younger lately. The court found this, findings of facts, the findings of facts. Findings of facts and conclusions of law in a family court mean nothing because it just means the judge's opinion. I like her, I hate him. So I find that he's abusive. And there's not a single charge, investigation, or anything. The judge, that is how it works. And so when she says, don't bring it to me, she works in criminal courts. And if you come and say, she was going to kill me, the criminal courts are going to say, okay, show me. Show me the text, show me the video, show me the bruises, show me the police reports. Well, I don't have any of that. And then they're going to say, you do not make false allegations. And they're going to charge you for making a false allegation. But in family courts, it doesn't work that way. That's why she says, do not bring this to me. Because if I investigate it and it didn't happen, your client's going to jail. She is literally coaching the family lawyers how to abuse the system to win, all of which is illegal and against the law ethics, but, oh wait, I was going somewhere with that. So that's how it works. So our Texas Family Courts and Lobbyists, Texas Family Attorneys, $3.8 billion a year. Our family courts are to the nuclear family as Planned Parenthood is to the unborn baby. Their sole purpose is to break it apart, destroy it, and make money off of it. It's not to fix it. It's not women's health. It's not reconciliation. They are there to break it and monetize it. Texas Family Law Foundation, we already talked about them. Judicial immunity and discretion. So what is that? So we already talked about, I'm an attorney, I go to court, I lie, I make stuff up, I go to family court and I lie, she never did anything to you, but we're gonna win because I know the judge. Because she hates, strong men, she's gonna kill him. We got this. And I'll go in there and make all kinds of stuff up because I have immunity. Judges have what's called absolute immunity. That means a judge cannot get in trouble for violating your constitutional rights, your civil rights, the state law, the federal law, or any other law as long as they're acting in a judicial capacity. What does that mean? Well, it's been perverted to mean basically anything. They just had a case out of Harris County, a judge down there, who handcuffed multiple lawyers to their chairs in the jury box because they angered her. So she had the bailiff get up and handcuff them, and they had to sit in the courtroom all day. If I did that to you, I would be going to prison because it's called unlawful restraint and kidnapping. But the judge did it to them, and what happened to this judge? She got a letter saying don't do it again. I've seen judges openly say, yes, I violated your constitutional rights. What are you going to do about it? And there is nothing you can do about it. And it all comes from a case called Stump v. Sparkman. A mother brought her daughter in who she thought was cognitively disabled, so she's not the bride. I don't want her to ever have kids. I want to take her and get her sterilized. I want her tubes tied. I don't want her to be able to breathe. And the judge granted it. So they took this little girl, this minor, had her tubes tied. She got married years later. They were working for a baby, went to see a specialist. Why can I not get pregnant? We've really been trying, we've been doing everything. And they said, you're sterile. You can't have a baby. And that's when she found out that when she was a child, this judge had ordered her to get sterilized because mom didn't want her to have kids. And so this went all the way to the Supreme Court. So she sued this judge and said, you can't do that. And the Supreme Court said, yes. Was it disgusting? Absolutely. Was it criminal? Was it amoral, vile, and reprehensible? Absolutely. But judges need the discretion to do that kind of stuff and they're able to do their jobs to the fullest of their ability. Just like a lawyer needs to lie, and an expert, if I'm appointed by a court to testify in a case, I have qualified immunity. I can go in there and lie all day long, and you can't sue me or do a darn thing to me. So if I don't like you, or I happen to know your spouse, or I play on the softball team that's in the same league with your spouse, I'm going to screw you, and I'm going to get paid handsomely for you can't do anything to me. That's what immunity is. And everybody who's a court actor, meaning works in the court, has some level of it. So you literally cannot do anything. They'll tell you, sorry. File a complaint with the licensing board. Oh wait, that would be the bar. Wait. Anyway, I get sidetracked. So we have a thing called State Commission on Judicial Conduct, right? They are the police of the judiciary. These are our superheroes. These are our Robins and our Batman. And they're there to hold them accountable. When you have a complaint, you don't go to the DA and say the judge did this, and the DA's like, I play golf with them. They won't do anything. This State Commission on Judicial Conduct, most of its committee members appointed by Governor, what's his name? Abbott. Yeah. Okay, anyway. So they're going to take care of it. So I've really screwed y'all over in this case. And you got it. You got witness statements. You even have the transcripts, which cost you probably $20,000 for a 3-day trial. And you sent all this off. And, whoa. I work at the State Commission, but we go through about 2,000 cases a year. 2,000 complaints a year. But it's not a full-time job. We meet once a quarter, which means every 3 months. And then every now and then we'll go down to Austin and kind of diddle around and, use our slush fund for lunch. So we meet once a quarter. We have 2,000 cases. So that's approximately 500 cases every 3 months we got to go through. So let's just break down, if I actually work 8-hour days every single day, and then we'll give a couple weeks off for Christmas, that's about 250-something days, right? So I would have to go through, what is that, 8 cases a day if I worked every single day, 8 hours a day with 2 weeks off for Christmas, and that's not even possible, and they're going through 2,000 once a quarter in part-time job. Oh, and by the way, we actually have their budget from the office, the Office of the Attorney General. They have $71,000 to conduct investigations. They do not have power to subpoena transcripts, meaning if they want to see what happened, they have to pay for the transcripts themselves, and that would equal about 5 cases. So they simply don't. Well, what we're going to do, because I want to make sure that y'all get your justice, I'm going to call the judge and say, hey, did you do this? And you're going to tell me, no. And I'm going to call the attorney and say, did you see him, Raphael?
Yep.
Did you see Raphael do that? Did Raphael do that? And you're going to say, I got 20 more years in this court. No, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to say, dismissed. And then you're going to say, but we have witness statements. We even gave you the transcripts. I didn't have time to read transcripts. That's like a couple thousand pages for a 3-day trial. And I have to go through 2,000 of these? Not going to happen. Those are our police for our judiciary. Does anybody feel like they need to employ you? So it's rigged. And who writes the laws? Oh my gosh. Do I want some of these freak TikToker kindergarten teachers who are all into the trans thing, do I want them writing our laws for our school boards and our TEA? Do I want those people to write the education laws in the state? No, probably not. Do I want the pro-gender mod? So I want to turn your little boy into a little girl with hormones because I can make money. Do I want them writing the law on whether gender modification is legal? Do I want Planned Parenthood to write my state laws on abortion? No. But in this case, guess who writes the laws for attorneys and judges in the state of Texas? Oh, snap! That would be attorneys and judges. Wait, I was going to go somewhere, but anyway, I get lost. So, we've got another thing called child support. Great idea, right? Kids need to be supported. Yes, we need to feed them. Absolutely. All these scumbag deadbeat dads, remember that phrase. All these scumbag deadbeat dads who don't want to support their kid. How dare you go out and make a child not want to support it? What is wrong with you? Oh my God. Hey, does anybody even know the left is very good at manipulating the message? Anyway, so we've got a thing called child support. In the federal government, through Title 4D funds, pays the states. And it comes out of your Social Security. So the Title 4D funds come out of what you pay in the Social Security. So, Judge Raphael, hope you don't mind me picking on that. All right, so he puts me on child support. So as soon as that kicks in, the federal government, are we in Dallas County? So, okay, Dallas County, so the Attorney General gets money from the federal government. And then they take out their operating budget and they send the rest to Dallas County for ordering me on child support. And then Dallas County takes it and pays the judge's salary. And in some counties they have incentives. It's kind of like a car salesman. The more cars you sell, the more bonus you make. They incentivize the Title 40 funds. Now that just sounds crazy. That doesn't sound legal. That's been around and that's the way it works. So Texas as a state, we have 9% of the population. Okay? California has 10 million more people than us and is considered more liberal, but I argue, maybe not. We take 17% of all the federal Title 40 funds for the nation, but we only have 9% of the population. But we take twice as much as California, the biggest state. And when you add California and Florida together, we still take more money than both of them combined. And our Attorney General's office brags about the amount of Title 40 funds, and the only way to do it is to put someone on child support. And the more I make your child support, the bigger the check from the government is. So the state gets it, goes to the county, and it goes to the judge's salaries in many cases. Judges are ordered to maximize it. But how can that possibly be? Because if that was true, I'm going into a court case, word's already briefed against me. I think that's illegal. But they're ordered to maximize it. Oh, wait. Texas Family Code 201.107C orders the judge to maximize the amount of Title IV funds received. And the only way to do that is for Judge Raphael to ignore all the formulas for what I should pay in child support and make it as high as possible, because the more I pay, the more the Fed pays the state of Texas. Oh gosh, who's that? That's my girlfriend. No, it's not. This is Amy Breslin. Her and her husband. I didn't put a picture of him on there because I didn't want to be ageist. I think he's 75 and
No,
never mind.
he's 69. But
69, but he looks like he's 90.
Nice.
Okay.
28 years older than his wife or daughter or whatever it is.
So when I said these are the lobbyists for the Texas Family Law Foundation. These are the two main lobbyists for the Texas Family Law Foundation. Her and her husband. He made, I believe, over $2 million last year lobbying to kill reform in family courts, lobbying to kill bills to allow fathers to see their children, lobbying to kill bills to reduce child support, lobbying to kill bills to put waiting periods, to add counseling, to try to reconcile families because they don't make money that way. But if they keep it the way they do, the conflict is high. And so she's always referring to anybody who's against it as a deadbeat dad. Here she's making a quip about, I bet they felt, it's always, I bet you don't like your child support. But they try to label anybody who's against this as a deadbeat dad. But a lot of you know Jeff Younger, because I heard the applause. Do you have any idea how much money that man spent fighting his case? And I know dozens and dozens of men who have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these aren't executive corporate guys. These are dudes that work construction and sold everything they own just to try to see their children, and they still haven't seen them in years. And then these people will take their stuff and post their name and call them deadbeat dads because they're not keeping up with the child support, but they spent $250,000 trying to have a relationship with their child. And these people do not want a man to have a relationship with his child because it does not generate income. Texas Family Law Code. Again, Brooks, you must be crazy. So this is the whole thing. But the red part is the important part. Title IV-D is used to reimburse costs and salaries associated with associate judges, court monitors, and personnel. So basically, anybody who has anything to do with the court, you can pay their salary with federal funds as long as we order enough child support. And the only way to do that is break up a family, because if you have 50-50, it's hard to argue that someone needs to be paying because the other parent has them more of the time. So I'm going to give you nothing, and you're going to pay a lot. And we just paid for our Christmas party. So this is our law. This is our law. And the presiding judge is ordered to maximize the amount of federal funds available under the Title 40 program. Maximize it. Maximize it. Nowhere in there are they ordered to work on the nuclear family or promote reconciliation or do what's best for the child. They're ordered to make money through our family courts. This is it. This is our state. Red is bad. Oh, look, we're red. We charge more child support than almost any other state. There's about 5 of us that charge. Every other state has gone way past this, but that's also why we take 20% of the income. It's a massive industry. I'm not going to go through all this, but there are people that do what I do that charge $25,000 and $30,000 for a report. It is very lucrative. It is extremely lucrative. And that report probably took them less than a week to put together. It is extremely lucrative. This entire business. Why don't we have cameras in audio in courtrooms? Well, one, judges don't want you to watch what they're doing. But we also have a transcriptionist lobby who works in the courtroom. And if I want to file a complaint or an appeal at the appellate level, I have to buy a transcript, which will cost me thousands to $10,000s These are the people that type them up. If there was a camera in there, we wouldn't have to pay that. All we have to do is get the DVD, but they wouldn't be paying for their kids' college. So it goes on and on and on. And this is just simply a picture of Judge Janice Jack out of Corpus Christi. She's had CPS and DFPS under her thumb since 2016 because we have destroyed so many lives. The federal government is threatening to come in and take over CPS and DFPS. And if you don't know, in January, a huge story came out about a bunch of little girls getting pimped out of a foster home. And CPS left them there for another 6 to 8 weeks without moving them because it was inconvenient. They didn't have placement. And then in January, Judge Janice Jack asked CPS, tell me where all the foster kids are. I want to know right now. And they said, we do not have the capacity to track them. I guess they don't have Excel down there at the state. But the problem is, it's not legislated that they track them, so they don't have to keep up with them. They can't tell you how many die. They can't tell me how many run away, how many they lose, or anything else because they're not legislated to keep those numbers. So they literally do not know. And when we bust a sex trafficking ring, we pull all these kids, over 60% of them are from foster care. So we literally funnel these kids to sex predators and perverts and sickos. But it's not our problem, says our state. Action point, what can we do? Anybody in here a delegate? All right. I have resolutions. I wrote them. They're beautiful. They're amazing. They're probably the best resolutions I've ever read. I mean, if I could sleep with them and they were fuzzy, I would. We've gotten these through our precinct and our county conventions, all of them, through various ones. I got them all through mine because they don't like seeing me come either. You can scan this. I've got a paper on the back table. You can literally do your magic phone thing and scan it, and it will pull them up. I've got just the resolutions here, and they all deal with family court, CPS, DFPS, gender modification, scumbag judges and attorneys, and those things that I talked about today. It's time to burn the system down. We are screwing up our kids for generations, and we say, how the hell did we get here? How am I here where it's okay to talk to my kid about sex and tell him he's a little girl and start putting him on hormones? And there's a guy bragging about cutting off a 5-year-old's penis the other day because mom decided to get health care. Can you imagine what's going to happen to that 5-year-old child when he grows up? This is how we got here. We destroyed the nuclear family. And our legislators are complicit because many of them get paid. And it is time to, I'm not going to use those words, it is time to get active. But yeah, they hate seeing me coming. But that's the deal. Call them up. But this is our long version. But the resolutions are right there. But we've been doing this for decades. And when men like these other men in here, if you're a man in here and you've experienced this garbage for yourself, raise your hand. My guys. Oh, look at that. And most of us think we're alone. And then when we find out that this is not, you're not alone, this is 90% of the men who go through this system. It is a systematic destruction of the family and removal of fathers. It is everywhere. And they make money, lots and lots of money. So that's what we're up against. So contact your local rep, your senator. Say, what are you going to do about it? I hear there's some badass McKinsey resolutions going through. Are you going to support them? I'll be down there at the convention speaking for these. You know, I'm sure in the next 6 months all this stuff's going to be getting leaked about me. I'm not running for anything, but I'm sure they're going to say, oh, did you know he used to? I'll tell you all my dirty laundry because I'm a late life Christian, so I have a lot of it. But I don't care. And that's the deal, is they will slander. They're going to call me a deadbeat dad. Anybody in here been called a deadbeat dad before, anybody? Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at that. And that's the thing, they're going to paint us as psychos. But if you follow the money, now the thing I said wasn't true, and if you want to follow the research, I can prove that all day long. And I'm told I have to be done. We should keep those up.
Where's our other speaker? Is he still here?
He had to go.
Another speaker. Okay.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, I think clearly in our next meetings, we'll give each of them the full hour.
Yeah.
Because they need more time to speak. Yes. But you guys, I know we come to these meetings and we're overwhelmed by what we hear. But they have action items to talk to him, get the resolutions, do what you got to do. If it's too overwhelming to go to these people individually, email roadsfran@yahoo.com and get on our citizen activist program, because we'll be hitting Austin up nonstop. And we do it during session and out of session. So get involved. If you don't get involved, it continues. So have a good night. Seems a little bit superficial at this point. But let's just thank our speaker one more time.